My name is Amanda Wilson, and I wanted to make this video today to talk about Bell Let's Talk Day. So today is January 27th, and of course, as many of you know, it's Bell's Let's Talk Day. And this is so exciting for me because it's one of my favorite days of the year. It's even better than Christmas for someone like me. So, Bell Let's Talk Day is an initiative to help raise awareness about mental illnesses. I myself suffer from PTSD, which is post traumatic stress disorder, and I also have GAD, which is general anxiety disorder. So, for me, raising awareness about mental health is so important, such as getting diagnosed early, finding the right treatment, having the right doctors and facilities available at your needs. These are very important things that we need to talk about. I'm also excited today because I'm also a volunteer for the initiative Sick Not Weak. And if you go on sicknotweak.com, you will find Michael Landsberg's initiative to help raise awareness about mental illness and to end the stigma associated with it. I'm so happy and excited to be working with these people and to be volunteering and being a voice for Sick Not Weak. So, Bell Let's Talk Day is a big day for me because this time last year, a year ago today, I went to social media for the first time to talk about my own illness. This is something I've never ever done before. I was diagnosed when I was 19. It was actually a month before my 20th birthday. So I've been living with this for almost 5 years. And in those 5 years, I've only been promoting it for one. So this is a big accomplishment for me to be able to tell my story to you and to the social media and to the world that it's okay to have a mental illness. There is nothing bad about having it. I myself have PTSD because I was mentally and emotionally abused as a child. It started from when I was very young, and it happened until I was about 14 years old. And the big thing is, unfortunately, I was too afraid to talk to anybody about it. By the way, I also apologize in advance. I have a very silky puppy with me today. I was afraid, and back then, teachers talked about, if you're not feeling well, go to kidshelpphone.com, talk to a counselor, but no teacher has actually said, if you're not feeling well, why don't you come talk to me about it? And I find that very frustrating looking back as a teenager. I almost wish that someone would have noticed, because I know for me, I wasn't doing very well. I was sick, I was falling behind in school, and yet somehow a teacher never approached me and asked, Amanda, are you okay? Is there anything you would like to talk about? And now, because of this, and I'm not blaming my teachers at all, but because there was lack of conversation about mental health and lack of conversation about mental illness, I didn't quite understand what was going on with myself. I just felt different than everybody else. All my friends seemed happy, and yet I could be in a crowd of people and friends in high school, and I wouldn't feel okay. I would feel different, and I would almost feel like I was empty. But I didn't understand what that was. And PTSD, I wasn't diagnosed until I was 19. So this is a big deal. I could have been easily diagnosed at the age of 16. So because of that, I spent 3 to 4 years suffering in silence because I had no idea what was going on. It wasn't until the month before my 20th birthday that all these bad memories came back to haunt me. I was triggered all the time. I was having a hard time in university. I had very little friends. I had very little support. I was on the other side of the province, so I was away from my family. And my boyfriend was living in Nova Scotia. So a combination of all these things, and especially after dealing a year with my mom being sick with cancer, it kind of just escalated to a point that I finally said, Amanda, enough is enough. You can't do this to yourself anymore. You can't cry yourself to sleep every night. You can't walk down the street and see a man that resembles your father and have a meltdown in public. It's not normal. So I finally got help. Now, the thing is with mental illness, help isn't always easy either. I was sent to the Mental Health and Addiction Center here in Corner Brook, but they said the wait list for me to see a counselor would be a year and a half. At this point, I had already contemplated suicide. I said to the counselors, I don't have a year and a half. I can't wait a year and a half to talk to somebody about this because I might not be here. I had made plans to try to kill myself, but I really didn't want to be alive anymore. So unfortunately for me, I had to go to a private counselor, someone that cost over $100 a session for a 45-minute session. And I put myself in debt for years trying to get help and the medications and seeing the psychiatrist. And it was difficult. And I'm not saying it's not difficult, and I'm not saying it's not easy, but it's just part of who I am and part of what I had to go through. But now looking back on it, almost 5 years later, I'm so happy to see how far I've come. Sorry. You know, living with this illness isn't easy. It's not just I can turn it on and off again. One day I'm happy and the next day I'm sad. That's not how it works. I always have PTSD. It will always be there. I have strategies, I have methods, and I have medication, and I have counseling to help me get through these things that I face. It's not easy. Some days are better than others. Some nights I wake up screaming and crying because of the bad things I had to face as a child. Other days I'm fine. I can get up and I have a smile on my face and I'm ready to face the day. It's the stigma that's associated with it. When I told people I had PTSD, they didn't understand it. They said, "But Amanda, you're always so happy-go-lucky and you're cheerful." But you know, a lot of that was an act as well because I didn't want people to know I was sick. I lied to my family for 4.5 years. I lied to my friends for 4.5 years. I know people suspected, but I lied about it because I was afraid that someone could use my illness against me, because that's how society has dictated mental illnesses over the last decades. I felt like it was my fault, that even though I was a victim, it was my fault for having this illness, for having something that I can't control and something that don't feel normal. But for me, once I started to realize, you know, this is a part of me. Yes, I fight it every day, and yes, I'm a survivor of it. But it's more than that. It's a part of who I am. I am still Amanda. I am still me. I'm just living with mental illness. It's the same as someone living with diabetes or having a heart condition. It's no different. And the worst thing for me is when people think you have to be physically ill to be sick. And that's not true at all. And I hate that one thing. That's my biggest pet peeve about having a mental illness, is people think, well, because you're not physically sick, you're not sick. A couple of weeks ago, the United States had their mental health week, and there was a video on BuzzFeed I jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge. And this man told his story about how he tried to commit suicide, but somehow he lived after he jumped. And he said something in the video that I found so powerful and so inspiring. He said, "Mental illnesses are the only illnesses in which we blame the person and not the disease." And I find that very powerful, because it's not my fault that I have PTSD. I couldn't control those things that I faced as a kid. And I can't control the terrors. I can't control the nightmares. I can't control because I feel sad for some days and happy at others. You can't blame me for that. That's my illness. And I just found that so powerful. It makes me tear up just to think it, because you wouldn't look at someone with diabetes and say, "Oh, well, that's your own fault. You're the reason your pancreas doesn't create insulin, so you get sick." My brain has different physical structures as well. There's been scientifically proven that people with PTSD have a different brain function, and that the fear part of their brain is actually more active than people who don't have PTSD. So it also is physical. There's physical abnormalities in my brain that is a part of this. And it's chemical too. So you can't blame the person for having a mental illness. You still need to be able to trust them. And just because I say, "Hi, my name's Amanda and I have PTSD," you shouldn't feel bad for me either. I don't want pity. I don't want people to look at me and say, "Oh, that's unfortunate. I'm so sorry." I'd rather the conversation go, "Oh, you have PTSD? I have a friend who has anxiety. I totally understand." And that's what I would like to accomplish someday. I would like mental illnesses to be a part of regular conversation, not some taboo that we have to keep in the closet or hide at nighttime. It's not like that. We can't keep the stigma going. We can't let people suffering in silence. I did for a long time, and I was very unhappy. And it wasn't until last year that I finally said to myself, enough is enough. I took to social media because if I change or impact even one person's life, then that will mean everything to me. I have, ever since I started my blog about mental illness and went to social media and I tweet and I got in contact with Michael Landsberg and I started doing all these great things to promote mental health, the feedback and support I've gotten from my fans and family have been immense. Yes, there's critics, and yes, there are people who call me poser and fake and all that stuff, but that stuff isn't the stuff that bothers me. It's the people that come to me and say, you know, Amanda, I've had depression and I haven't told anybody. I'm so glad you shared your story because you're making me feel more confident in being who I am, living with this illness. And that's all that matters. Someone shouldn't have to feel ashamed because they have a mental illness. And someone shouldn't have to hide and be afraid to tell anybody in the fear that they'll be judged. So today, for Bell Let's Talk Day, I encourage all of you to turn off your iMessenger and to send as many texts as possible. Tweet with the hashtag Bell Let's Talk or hashtag SickNotWeek and just promote. Educate yourself. Do the research. Look up PTSD if you're not sure, or message me and ask me. I'll be glad to share any information and tell you even more about my story. But I encourage everybody to get involved. This is a big part of my life, but it should be a big part of society as well. And I also want you to keep in mind that even though Bell Let's Talk is just today, mental health is a conversation we should be having every day. Educate your children, talk to your teenagers, talk to your parents, talk to your grandparents. This doesn't just affect some people, it can affect everybody. So get out there, send all those texts. My phone hasn't stopped all day, so I'm so excited. Keep tweeting, use hashtag SickNotWeek. Check out SickNotWeek.com and get involved with Michael Landsberg initiative to help end the stigma around mental illness. Share pictures on Bell Let's Talk, and let's get the message out there. Let's keep the conversation going. Mental health is so important, and even though someone has a mental illness, they're no different. And if you judge me because of my mental illness, that's your ignorance. It's not my truth. I'm Amanda Wilson. I have PTSD, and I am not my mental illness.